just felt like she knew because I communicated with the sergeants that taught the class, and they were best friends and like clicky, and and just to after I started making complaints, I just got some different vibes and from the command staff.
Okay. So you're treated one way by the command staff. You start making complaints to the sergeant, and then the command staff at the academy starts treating you differently. Is that fair?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. So okay, we were just getting into you were posted to the courts. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay. Now, on a subject that's related to that, we heard testimony from Mr. Gladney that there are more minority deputies at the courts than there are at road patrol. Is that something you understood?
Correct.
Okay. And was that just obvious to you?
It was definitely, weird to me. It stood out definitely. All the majority of the black people, the few of the black people that we have are all at the courthouse.
Okay. And then to remind us again, in your class of 21 trainees or something, for lack of a better word, you were the only black person, right?
That graduated. We had two other black people, but they didn't do well on their test, and I was left being the only black person to graduate, and I was there with being the only black person for months.
So you started with 23 and 2 black people were weeded out?
I believe so. I don't remember the count or the number, but yes.
Okay. Would you believe anybody of any other races weeded out?
Those other 2 deputies?
Right. I mean, other than those 2 deputies, was anybody else weeded out? As far as you know?
Due to not failing, due to not passing exams and stuff like that, yes.
Okay. So, again, you moved to courts. Do you experience any discrimination at the court? And you were at courts for more than once, right?
Yes.
Okay. About how many times were you?
Twice.
Twice. Okay. So we're just talking about the first time now.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the first time at courts, did you experience any discrimination?
No.
Okay. And what? Okay. So, do you know what kind of supervisor you had? Was that with the race of your supervisor at courts? And actually, I'm going to retract that question because I'm going to retract that question. My question to you is, do you have any idea of why you didn't experience any discrimination at the court department as opposed to the academy?
It was the courts division is diverse and got a fair enough of black people, and you also in the building with black judges, the sheriff working in the building, so I think the courts is more. I don't, it's not gonna happen in the same building with a black sheriff where you got black judges and black hierarchy people that's working in the courts division. So I believe people was more careful. I'm not saying there's not racist people in the courts division, but people was more mindful and careful of how they conducted themselves.
Okay. And then at some point in your career, did you start experiencing discrimination again?
Only at the patrol.
Okay. So can you describe to me, at some point I assume then you left the courts, right?
Correct.
And then you went to
the patrol division.
Okay. And then about how long after you got to the patrol division did you start experiencing discrimination?
It was, fairly like right away. I was the only black person on patrol.
And just to be clear, when you say black person, do you? I just want to be clear. We're talking about deputies. We're talking about all employees. What are we talking about?
Deputies on. There's only deputies at the patrol division. They got maintenance people, but yeah, as far as the sheriff department, I was the only black person working on at patrol, and they got schedules. Like, don't get me wrong, they have schedules that reflect black people, but they were out on FMLA and not present. So it looked as if I'm not the only black person, but I remember my time, I've been the only physical black person working.
Okay, and about how long were you working at patrol then?
About 4 years.
Oh, okay. So that's pretty significant. And how long were you working at the sheriff's department in total?
The sheriff, about 4 years. So a few months, I'll say about a few months in the courthouse and then the rest as a patrol.
Okay, and just so we can wrap this part up, in terms of you then went back to courts, is that right?
Yes.
About how long were you in courts?
Towards the end or at the beginning?
Yeah, the second time.
from March to, it was like March 6th or 7th, they transferred me out and I went to there and completed my shift out September, March to September.
So about 6 months.
September 16th until they walked me on September 16th.
Okay. But that sounds like 6 months. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay. So I got it. All right. So, but the first time you're only at the courts for, did you say a couple of months?
Yes.
Okay.
About 6 months.
Excuse me.
About 6 to 9 months before when I was my first stint out at the courts.
Okay. So, and I asked you this before, but you started experiencing discrimination right away. What's the first discrimination incident that you recall at the patrol division?
Just far as the just singling me out, or when I'm speaking, laughing at everything I say in roll call, just treating me out like everybody was cliquey and, just.
Oh, okay, and so if we can just spread that out for a second. When you're saying laughing at everything you say, can you explain that a little more?
We can just talk whatever's being brought up in roll call, or we talk about certain areas, like about the zones and stuff like that, or the north side, they pick apart certain things that relates to Black people, and it seems like they go, my time on patrol, it's like their goal was to target the north side.
Okay, so when you say target the north side, what are you talking about?
Always doing most of our stops, our traffic stops, doing most of our we used to do this thing called, it's like where everybody line up and we try to catch speeders. I forgot what it's called, but speed laser or something like that. I forgot what it's called, but we always catch those going to the north side. So we are pretty much set up to catch Black people, those without insurance and stuff like that. Never setting up the ones I've been involved in, never setting the ones on the south side at all.
Okay, I get it now. So what you're saying is that the policing that you were involved in at the sheriff's department was primarily targeted at Black people. Is that fair?
Correct.
Okay. And then how did that influence or how did that lead to discrimination against you as a employee of the sheriff's department?
Because you get some deputies that say things like, you're mad because we're running laser and, on the north side and on Brown Street, just little comments and things like that.
Okay, and I do want to pause you here because when you're saying Brown Street, is it meant to be a race-based comment?
To me, yeah, because it's a Black area, it's a Black neighborhood, it's one of the worst zip codes, in Milwaukee.
Okay, and so we might not all be from Milwaukee on this call.
Right.
And some of us might be from outside Madison, for example.
Correct.
Okay, so just Brown Street, is that an actual physical street?
Yes.
Okay, but it's also a street which is predominantly Black, is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay, and that's in the city of Milwaukee, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I-43.
Okay, so, and it's off of a area patrolled by the sheriff's department?
Yes.
Okay. So, and I want to be, I guess, are these connections between the race-based policing at the sheriff's department, is that something that you're bringing up? Or is that something that's being brought to your attention by other deputies or something else?
As far as like where we doing our speed laser and stuff like that?
Right.
Yeah, I'm bringing these things up in roll call, asking questions like, is there a reason why we just in this area when speeding occurs in every zone, but everything is on the north side.
Okay, and then did I understand correctly that the response to that is more, you're upset about that because of your skin color?
Correct.
Okay. I think I got that then. Okay, so that's more or less the first issue that starts coming up.
It's more issues down the road, but I'm trying to recall as we go on.
Okay, and but we're talking about acts of, racial bias that's being put on you towards your, or I'm going to scratch that. If we could, the comments that are being directed to you about you're just upset about the race-based policing because you're black. Did you complain to any supervisor about that at any time?
About the in roll call. Yep, it's always a supervisor, sergeant, or above that's hosting roll call.
Okay, and so were some of these comments, were they being made in front of supervisors?
Yes.
Okay.